Good afternoon, Ryan. How you doing? You well?
I'm good, bro. I'm good, man. Yeah,
Good to have you on the line, man.
good to be
I've
here.
been watching your growth over the last decade, and the noise around you and the interest in you, and for those who are not quite sure why, Ryan's a playwright, and he's the guy behind the award-winning Four Black Boys Who Considered Suicide When the Hue Gets Too Heavy. Ryan, I'm going to tell you this straight. Never met you before.
Mm.
I think there's been a couple of times where we've tried to get this interview going. It's just timings haven't worked
Yeah,
out for
yeah,
you,
yeah,
for me. We've covered it anyway, the
yeah.
journey and
Bless
the
you.
fact that, and
Appreciate
we had to because I've spoken to too many journalists who I know have been and love and respect
it.
this production and what you've put together. I wanted to find out,
Mm.
you conceived the idea 10 years ago at the travesty that was, Trayvon Martin's death, and it's gone since then, right? So for those who are just finding out in this interview about you, the hype, and they're going to go away and do their research and probably ask themselves where they've been, let's go back to the beginning and where it started, right? And just you, who was Ryan at that point, and what was you trying to do?
I think I was a young actor at that time. I had just come into the industry. I was working. I was making a first little piece of money, and I wouldn't consider myself an artist back then. I would have considered myself as an actor. So I feel like I was a frustrated actor because I had no creative output. And I was working, but I was working doing similar roles. And it got to the point where I could see that a lot of my contemporaries were flying over the pond to America because they were like, "Yo, come out here. We could play anything out here." And I was like, "That's cool," but also like, how am I have to uproot everything and leave? And just to do that, I was like, "What is it that I need at this particular time?" And I was like, "I need I need people writing the kind of stories that I want to be in." And I got to a point where I was like, I'm not the kind of person to complain about things. That's just not my nature. So I was, what can I do? And I grabbed a couple of friends and I was like, let's come together and create a company where instead of being frustrated, we can just do some stuff with the limited money or whatever resources that we have. And the first product from that was a play called Queens of Sheba that is gone on to is going it's gonna get announced. It'll be announced by the time this comes out. But yeah, that's going to New York and doing an American tour. But that was our first
Congrats, man.
product. Oh, bless
Congrats. Let's
you.
not skip over that like it's a small thing, man. Well
It's
done.
not. But we had a budget of like £5 and we put it on and we were like, yo, and it was really interesting because like I was saying, I was on big projects, but this meant so much that it was us, it was our voices. It represented something that felt really uniquely Black British that I had never really seen in big spaces before. Like you would get big Black plays, but there would always be American imports that came in, and I was like, that's really cool, but it actually isn't our unique experience. So Queens was the first kind of outlet for that, and I always had this idea in my head about trying to create something that really felt authentic about what I grew up around, and I spoke to myself. And at that particular time, I had read Enter Sarke's For Colored Girls, and I was just like, this is just why did I never grow up on this? Why did no teachers ever show this to me? Because that was the first time that I went, this is theatre. I never imagined myself in theatre. When I thought about theatre, I thought about, middle class white people, Shakespeare, Men in Tights, that kind of stuff. I was just like, it's not really where I'm from. Like, I don't really relate to that. And every time I had gone to the theatre, it was people telling me shh, and I can't laugh and I can't express myself. So I was like, yo, but I read For Colored Girls, and I was like, this was a play that was particularly aimed at the Black community, and I was like, imagine what would happen if I did work like that, and I had my audiences looking like that. So at that particular time, 10 years ago, it was a dream. That's where I was. It was just a dream.
But it's interesting because you've spoken about your mindset then and having works appear in the big spaces.
Yeah.
So it was a dream that's actually manifested, and
Oh yeah.
that's what I want to talk about. You've also touched on
Yeah.
the fact that you're not one to complain, you just get things done. So
Yeah.
how have you changed in the 10 years that have transpired? Because I can imagine with so much focus on, for Black boys and this just hitting it out of the park, mate, what's that been like? Because you couldn't have anticipated.
Yes and no. So for my thing is always what's the dream? What's the blue sky thinking? So it's interesting, I go for Black Boys. So I've written 4 plays before for Black Boys, but the idea for Black Boys was the first idea I ever had to create. So for me, I went on a journey in that 10 years of being able to go, like, it's not an overnight thing, when I first wrote it, I was like, or when I first considered the idea, it was a case of going, I need it to be poetry and I want it to be dance, I want it to be movement, but I'm not versed in those things. So over those 10 years, it was about, okay, cool, I'm gonna read as much poetry as I possibly can, so that when I write this thing, I'm gonna feel like a poet. I don't want to feel like I'm some outsider. So I was obtaining the skills, and a lot of those skills came from writing other pieces that, you know, when I wrote Typical, which is all poetry, it's all verse, you know. So I was like, okay, by the time I get to Black Boys, I'm gonna really know and understand the artistry of that. So yeah, it was about but because the vision of this was always it was gonna go to the biggest possible place. So it was really interesting, you know, when I spoke about For Black Boys early, like 10 years ago, you know, when it was called Timbuktu, and I was like, yeah, this is going to the West End, you know, and the only thing that really changed in that time is that at that time people thought I was mad. Do you know what I mean? And now people are like, yeah, this guy's this and that. At that time, people are like, yeah, right, all right, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because no one was at the West End then. No one was at the West End then, you know. So when it got there, it's one of two things. It's absolutely, this is crazy, but also this is what you wanted, and this is what you worked towards, and this is why I worked so hard. And this is why I kind of, you know, happened to create a company, meant that I could cut out so many different middlemen that would tell me no. Because, you know, when it comes to my work, I'm stubborn, man, to the point of ignorance. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is going on regardless. And I got turned down, no. Everybody turned me down. Even the people that are riding me now, they all turned me down at one point, you know. But for me, it was a case of having a shared belief that that I had something to say and that there were people that needed to hear it. I needed to hear it. So yeah.
How old are you right now? Just to context.
Just turned 35. Yeah.
Right. Just for context, right? For those who are watching this and listening to this, right? For Black Boys it secured its second West End run as of February 2024 at the Garrick Theatre. When that was confirmed, how did you feel?
Oh, good. I felt good. You know what? It's hard because I don't ever sound arrogant. Do you know what I mean? But I do work hard, and I felt good, but I also felt like, yeah, like it deserved that. Do you know what I mean? Whatever that sounds like, whatever. But I felt like it deserved that based on what it did and how we went about doing it. It felt like that was a natural thing to be able to come back and to have another run. You know, I felt like we had created something that deserved to be at the highest kind of places that theatre could possibly go. And it was a testament to our community who, you know, on that first day, I queued up on the first day that it was ever on at the Apollo. Because it was interesting. I knew that the tickets had sold, but I had no idea who had bought the tickets, right? So I was like, if this show is like, you know, if every single member of the audience is not Black tonight, then it's going to be an interesting show. It's going to be a very, very interesting show. And just seeing like 900 young Black people line up. And I remember Nika was there, who owns the theatre, and she was like, I've never seen anything like this in my whole career. And that's why I felt, you know, and again, this when I was talking to you earlier on about why it's so important for me to have conversations with people like yourself, is because this is the community. These are the people that rode with me when I was putting Queens of Sheba on in front of 40 people. And it's the same community that are sending it out in the West End. So that's why it was important, because for me, it's important to have a show there and for people that would never ever go to the West End to go, this is our home now. That we're gonna come in this place and we're gonna listen to the music that we're listening to. We're gonna shout and scream and have arting. So that's why it's important. More than myself, it's important because more people need to see the show. They want to see the show. Yeah.
The awards that it's won, and also being, you know, nominated for Best Player of 2023, Olivier-Awards. I mean, it's levels, my brother. It's up there. Yeah? I see the smile on your face and you're rubbing your hands, and I get it. You know what I mean? It's levels, bro. And for me, I look at, like I said, I'd never met you before. I haven't seen the play yet, but I saw all the noise and I saw it growing and I saw it mushroom and I heard, and everything's been good. It's testament to your pursuit of excellence and mastery and this non-stop, incessant desire to get it right. You've ticked all the right boxes, you've prepared, and the fruits are coming your way as a result. I just wonder, when, you know, you got your first West End run, did you think that was it? And you've kind of sold out everywhere you've been. Did you think?
Yeah.
How do you top that? I mean, how were you thinking about bettering everything you've done, or bettering the delivery, and just getting more people to see the product?
Yeah, I think those are two things, because I wear two caps in this, producer and artist, right? And from a producer, the moment that you sell out a West End run, you go, my work here is done. Like, I am A1 right now. I just did do you know what I mean? But from a point of an artist, it's completely different. I'm never ever satisfied. And the guys that work with me would always tell you, from the first day to the last day, whether it's 1 seat or 900, I'm still giving you notes. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm always, and I feel like, for me, it's I would say humbling, but it's also, I want to, like you were just saying, I always want to get it right, and it's interesting because people can talk about me in a certain way, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm a baby in this. I'm still starting out. I only started writing 5.5 years ago. I'm a baby. I've still got so much to learn. There's still so much I want to do in various other projects, but also in this one. I can watch the show and people can watch it and go, this is the best thing. But I know the show, I know myself, and I go, when I bring it out again, we're gonna go up. And everyone looks at me like, what? Like, what already? And I'm like, no, we've got levels to go. And I think that's something that I like implementing with my team. When I used to play football, manager always used to say 0-0. No matter what score it was, it's 0-0. Keep us on our toes. We go back in again. And how do we come back a year later and we move better? How do I come back a year later and now I'm a better writer? So that scene that was a certain length, now I can actually say that in a more precise kind of way. How do you come back and you're better at singing and moving and all these kind of things? We're continuously growing. I think it's very dangerous to be at a point where you go, I'm gonna believe all the hype and I'm just gonna be that guy. And I'm like, I'm a baby. Let's go. I'm gonna go again. So that's what's exciting about bringing it back, is another opportunity to better Ryan Calais Cameron from 2023. Do you know what I mean? I want to be better than that guy. Yeah.
I love when people use football analogies, because then it prompts me to ask what team they support.
I don't even know if we're gonna go there.
Come on.
Listen, I'm a United fan.
Is it a blue lot?
I'm a United fan. I'm happy for the international break, man. I need some time off.
But you're in form. You're in form. You're the form team going into the national.
Man United.
You had 1 loss in 5 games.
No. That's not in form, man. That's
not form. But it's 5 wins. You won 5 from 5.
It's not about that. No, we want to be.
I'm trying to show some love, brother.
You have to understand who we are, man.
Who you were. But let's not go there. We digress. Listen, the substance of the play, the production, right? It's heavy. So let's get into that for a second, because you're a different person now to who you were, to when you wrote it, to when you had the dialogues with all the people that have contributed to putting this together. A lot's happened in that time. So speak on the substance of this production and just how heavy it is, and how you go about lightening the load a little bit, because some people are going to see the title and be like, well, I don't know if I could subject myself to that. So let's get that one out.
Exactly, that's what it always is. I think for me, so one of the reasons why it took so long to write it is because I've written it in 2 different stages. So I wrote the first half of it almost 10 years ago now, being a younger man, mid-20s, having an understanding of, or what I believed an understanding of the world, but not having any answers for any of the things that I was going through. And then I wrote the second half in the pandemic. So at that time, in those 10 years, I had 2 businesses. I got married. I had 4 children.
Congrats,
and I was like, oh, God bless you, man. And I had gone, okay, I understand who I'm talking to. So the second act of the play really speaks to the young, confused, angry man in the first act of the play, and says that if you allow love into your heart, so many of these things, you will see a way around them. It's not an answer, but it is a way to actually confront a lot of the trauma that we as young Black men have had to go through. And one of the things is giving love, but also we put ourselves in a position where we find it almost difficult, almost impossible to accept love. And we look at, in the second act, we look at the various different forms, whether it be romantic, whether it be religious, whether it be, do you know what I mean? Just accepting love, and what is the transformative reaction to that? And that was a massive part of my life, going through so many different struggles, physically and mentally, and not being able to articulate it. And the young men in the play are also unable to articulate it because we don't have the language, because we don't speak about these things. You know, and there's so many things, whether it's one of the big things in the play, without too many spoilers, is we touch upon prostate cancer, which is huge for Black males, and that kind of thing on was strength. And it's really interesting. I only went to see a doctor when I got married. I hadn't seen a doctor in 6 years. I didn't have a doctor, and it was just this kind of, you know, if I've got something wrong with me, I'll just, you know what I mean, I'll just get through it. And it was my wife going, "Are you crazy? Like, you know, what are you talking about? Go and see somebody." But there's a cultural thing there, a stigma there. It makes you weak, and that's the last thing that you can ever be if you're Black. So we really kind of get through that, demystify it. And these young men, they come in one way of not wanting to talk, not having a rapport with one another, because, you know, but once they get to a certain place, you start to see what happens to them when they are able to receive the love from one another. And for me, the major thing about it was, I wonder what would happen. Like, why is it so easy for young Black boys to take another young Black boy's life, you know? And what is it that, why do we not see value in one another? And why do we not see value in ourselves, you know? And what would change if we started to love on one another? Could that possibly change that discourse and that outcome? So yeah, I think that's what the play really is for me. Really looking at how different could it be if we were to accept love, and how we move through the play is really interesting, because I think, you know, even in that title, the first part of that title is for Black boys. You know, this is a present. You know, I'm not going, let's get the Black boys on and let's dance in our trauma. It's going, if you could give anything to a young Black boy, what would you give them? And I'm going, this is my gift. Do you know what I mean? So the whole entire play is going, let's touch upon education, let's touch upon love, let's touch upon spirituality, let's touch upon all of these things that I wish that somebody could have said to me at age 13 or 25. You know, I still found myself being a boy at 25 because I was unable to grow. You know, I was unable to have the minerals and the supplement that I feel like a young man kind of needs. And sometimes that could just be an older man wrapping his arm around you and saying, "I'm proud of you." You know what I mean? But if you don't have that, then what are the vices that you go between in order to be a man? You know, and a lot of that for a lot of us young men is toxic. You know what I mean? Yeah, we end up in, whether it's a gang or we end up in toxic relationships, all these kind of things, these different ways of trying to journey into manhood. So yeah, that was in a massive nutshell. That's kind of, yeah, what I was trying to do. And what we do is we use humor, we use dance, we use movement. We really celebrate what it means to be a Black man. And that kind of, for me, I always call it the blues. You know, one thing that we can do as a people is we find a way to always come out of those traumatic experiences with art. And that's what the young men do in it. They really come out of those and lift one another up. And one of the things I love about it is that the audience, for me, become the seventh member of that room. They really come on this journey with us, and we sit together and we hold one another and we cry together and we laugh out loud together. And the room is created in a way that allows you to do that and feel comfortable doing that. You know, I see people literally rolling off their seats and going, like, you know, this is the West End, you know. So yeah, no, I love it, man. I love it.
Couple more before we go. Reactions. What's been the best, strangest one that's kind of moved you or left an indelible mark on you? You busted about a few.
It's been a lot, and it's so. Do you know? I think that's the one thing that I could have never. I knew it was going to be a good show because of how much I put into it, but I didn't realize how it would change people and their perspective of theatre and life. And the conversations around mental health have been absolutely incredible. I think there was one testimony that I got from these young youth club, and they were like, all the young guys in the youth club now want to do singing lessons. Like they didn't think it was cool to sing until they watched your play, and now they were like, yeah, they want to do singing lessons. One young guy last year, was it this year? This year, he met up with me at a show, and he was like, "Oh, you need to speak to my brother-in-law. You need to speak to my brother-in-law." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Put me on the phone straight away. Brother-in-law was like, "Yo, I just need to let you know that it changed my life." I was just like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, he had a lot of relationships in his life, especially with women that he couldn't open up about. He didn't understand how to express himself, and he isolated himself from a lot of people. And he watched that show and realized for the first time that he was the issue and that he needed to overcome this." And he was like, with his missus, with his mum, all the women in his life, he now has a relationship. And I was just like, Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I could never imagine that the show would be able to even be a part of anything like that. And that's just one of like thousands, thousands. I've still
I
got
can
like
imagine. I
4,000,
can imagine.
messages that are still unread till now.
So if you could, moving forward, if you could, you know, you touched on the fact that you really wanted to hit home with a certain demographic. It's done that. It resonates. It reverberates. People are keen to come and see it. I can imagine this is going to be another sold out run. It's 9 weeks. 9 weeks for those who are wondering. I don't know when tickets are on sale, but you know, people need to get there, pull their finger out, and grab their tickets soon. If you could, you know, touch another audience, then, or if you could dictate, or kind of, is there another area of this society that you want to introduce to this product? Who would that be? What does that look like?
100%. I think it's one of those shows where you go to the show and you see it started off being just the community. Those were the ones that were buying it, selling it. Now everybody comes to the show and everybody takes something very different. And I think that's the special thing about art, is that, you know, even though I created it for a very specific demographic, I've had white people, I've had Asian people that go, oh, I relate to this, but I don't relate to that, and that really made me understand how close we are in terms of culture and stuff. And I've had white people look at it and go, actually, you know, those young boys, that what they've gone through, people like myself are an issue, and I appreciate that. I like, again, you know, it is for black boys, but it's one of those shows that I hope that how good it is makes it universal, you know, and what it does is it shows that one of the main things that I wanted to do from the show is humanize young black men. I feel like you see us and automatically we're criminalized, and it's like, actually, we are human. We are more like you or anybody else that you ever know. And I think that's a major lesson and understanding for people of all walks of life, that we're all trying to get through the same madness, man, in our own kind of way.
Hey man, listen, you're about to get real busy. The start of the year is already kind of mapped out for you, bro. So before that, there's Christmas, there's New Year's, there's a period to kind of sit with the family and chill. So what does that look like for you? You gonna get away before the madness, or are you
I would love to get away for Christmas. I think with the family, I think it's the last time I'm gonna be able, not last time I see them, but the last time we're gonna have something of normality again for a few months. I think the first.
What does Christmas look like in Ryan's household?
We're trying to switch it up. I think what we used to do is Christmas used to be driving around up and down everybody wants to see the kids. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to see the kids, and then we're exhausted. What we're gonna do now is, I think we're just gonna do it at ours, man. Invite everybody over that wants to come over. Turkey, a nice little, you know, what we had in the pandemic is we got to have a nap on Christmas Day, and I think that's been my best Christmas in the last decade. You know, having
oh, but well, I hope you get your nap. You know what I mean? And I can only imagine.
Christmas.
Yeah, that's a killer. I can only imagine next year. This time next year, you're gonna need another break. So, you know, God willing, anyway. You know what I mean? Like, is there anything else you want to share with us before we part ways, Ryan?
No, man. Just look out. Just look out for Ryan Calais Cameron next year. It's gonna be a exciting year, God willing, man. I've got a couple of projects coming out. I've got Borders coming out with the BBC that I'm writing on, and a big one, Queenie. I write 2 episodes of on Channel 4 that drop early next year. So man, it's gonna be an exciting year. A couple more shows will be announced later in this year as well. So man, we're trying.
Stay blessed, my brother. You're doing, not trying. You're doing, man.
Appreciate it, man. Nice one. In a bit.